Am I the astronaut for backing out on an agreement my husband and I made years ago regarding potential kid names? My husband, 38 male, and I, 37 female, have been married for 11 years and have 2 daughters, 8 and 4. I'm currently 12 weeks pregnant with our 3rd child. I just had an ultrasound and we were able to determine the sex of the baby, a little boy. We have found out the sex of all of our children this way. My husband is a 3rd, as in John Smith III. Before we got married, we were having discussions about kids. He did make it very clear that passing down his name was very important to him if we had a son. At the time, I thought it was really cute and adorable how much pride he took in it, since most guys don't really care about that sort of sentimental stuff. But as the years have gone by, I've definitely cooled on the idea quite a bit, and I don't think I want to have our son be named after my husband that way. Obviously, our first 2 kids, we didn't even have to think about it. But when we were choosing names for our daughters, my husband was very much in the, you can take the lead on naming our daughter because I already have the name picked out if we have a son camp. It's not like he wasn't involved in naming our daughters, but he definitely deferred to my opinion. So when we found out we were having a boy, my husband was very excited. On the car ride home after the ultrasound, it was all he could talk about. He was giddy like a teenager, talking about how proud he would be of sharing his name with his son. I don't know if it was the best time to bring this up, but I kind of had one of those, yeah, about that moments. I told him how I know we had talked about this many times before with our other kids and that I technically agreed to it years ago, but I don't think I want to name our son the same as my husband. I don't think I've ever seen anyone's mood change so quickly and visibly as my husband's did in that moment. It was like all the joy went out of his body all at once. I told him that I just don't want our son to be a 4th. It seems tacky and has weird aristocratic vibes that just don't seem right to me. I told him that I am not totally against the idea, but I don't want to just agree to it right now because I want time to think about the other names too. He took that as me basically saying that I am going back on our years-long agreement and that there is no way we are naming our son after him. He said this is pretty much me telling him maybe when I really mean no. This has taken all of his excitement about the baby away. He's been withdrawn and quiet with me ever since. When I try to talk to him about it, he tells me he has nothing to say because he's been very clear about where he stands on this and he feels betrayed by my change of heart. I asked him if he would want to think of some other names together, and he told me to give him a list and he'll look at it when he can. I know I technically agreed to this years ago, but it just doesn't feel right to me anymore. Top comment here. Let me understand. You made an agreement with your husband. You got to name the girls. He would name the boy. You benefited from this agreement twice. Now, when it's his turn to benefit, you have some moral objection to naming a kid the 4th. You don't like the weird aristocratic vibes. I don't necessarily disagree with you about that, by the way, but surely 4 years ago, when you had your 2nd child, you felt those same vibes? But you nonetheless took the lead in naming your daughter without, and at that time, saying, I feel weird about the 4th thing, so why don't you take the lead on this, honey? I mean, because people just might think you went along with naming a kid the 4th 8 years ago because it gave you the lead in naming your first child who you knew to be a daughter, and again 4 years ago in naming your 2nd child who you knew to be a daughter, and having only now developed weird vibes when your husband gets to take the lead in naming a child. You're the asshole. Candy Thunder's whoop whoop. Yeah, regardless of how you feel about the naming convention of using the 4th. The upholding an agreement only when it benefits you to later on renege on that agreement when it's going to benefit someone else is just shit person behavior. And if putting myself in your hubby's shoes, I would have a really hard time trusting anything that you verbally agreed to moving forward. Guess what? Any big agreements you guys have moving forward are probably going to be in writing, and that's your own damn fault because he can't trust your word. Your word is your bond. It means nothing to you. I'm not saying you can't ever change your mind, that preferences won't change, but you have to admit this is pretty sus. To benefit from the arrangement twice, and only now, when this arrangement is supposed to benefit him, develop some kind of problem with it. You take issue with it now. Too bad. You already cashed in twice. You cashed in twice. So, you cashed in twice knowing full well what it meant. And I think as soon as you cashed in the first time, you sealed the deal on this one. Done did it. Oh, what did I miss from Kaz here? Trust is going to impact your marriage and your family. Yeah. And now It's a big deal. It's a big, you know what? Candy Thunder, did you hear this story? You know the story. What are your thoughts? Candy Thunder says she f***ed up. Okay. Do you, never mind. What I was going to ask was the fact that she's 12 weeks pregnant doesn't change things here at all, right? Because this is something that she's felt for a long time. This is not something that just all of a sudden popped up and she's thinking about it differently, and maybe being 12 weeks pregnant has something to do with that. It feels like this was seeded a long time ago and she knew what she was doing. She was just waiting to pull that card out of her back pocket whenever they found out they were having a boy, so she could be like, yeah, I'm not necessarily in love with the idea. And the fourth at the end. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the deal about the naming convention with the fourth thing. And I know we said we weren't going to get into this. It doesn't matter. You do you. Even if you have a family where that happens, you remember Patrick Mahomes' football jersey his rookie year? Even his second year had the Roman numeral. What about his third year? Took it off. His son is the third. But when you say Mahomes, you don't say Mahomes the second. Like, it's something that's important to their it's something that's important to their family. It's something that's important to their family. But when it comes to other people referring to them, it's not going to be something that they think about. It's not going to be something that's top of mind for them. I don't imagine that you'd be walking around introducing your kids like George Foreman. He's running around the house just yelling out numbers. 4, where are you? No, that's 7. I need 4. Get 4 down here right now. I mean, if that's an option, Candy Thunder, that would be way more efficient because we have 5.